All right.
There's Sergeant Kramer. Awesome.
Welcome, Sergeant Kramer. All right.
Welcome to the Human Rights Advisory Commission meetings, Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. I officially call this meeting to order. Did everyone receive the minutes via email? So yes. I will entertain any additions or corrections to the minutes. Yes, Dori.
Yep, there you go, Dori.
My usual. So I just texted him to Paolo since he'll probably make the updates. But I thought it was important for us to specify COVID-19, not just COVID. So I just changed that in the last section, the 735 HRAC priorities 2021.
Thank you, Dori. Perfect. Any other corrections to the minutes? All right. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Motion to accept the minutes. Can I do that?
Yes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. All in favor of accepting the minutes as corrected?
Sorry, who moved and seconded?
Stephanie moved. And Anjabi, was that you? Anjabi
No.
seconded. Motion carries. Are there any discussions about the minutes now that they're? I will say it was a privilege to be a recorder for a year, and I welcome Spencer as the new recorder this year. Let's be kind to him. The first meeting is the hardest.
He's doing a great job.
Of course, yes. So I now turn the meeting according to the agenda. If it's okay with Stephanie, I turn over to Paolo for public participation.
Cool. Hello, everyone. So yeah, the public participation, we do have one person with us. Hello, Megan, and welcome. Usually the way these public participation works is 2 minutes per person or 10 minutes total. Megan, if this is, if you haven't heard this before, we also have the on the HRAC page, the comment form on there as well. So if ever you run out of time, or if you miss something, you're welcome to leave comments or questions on there, and I receive them, and I do share them with the commission. And then if I could answer them, then I do answer them. So I have been asked to keep consistent with keeping time. So basically, when you get to your last 30 seconds, I'll just raise my hand. But Megan, welcome to the HRAC meeting.
Hi, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I don't have any questions. I just wanted to sit in on your meeting. I'm a student with George Fox University, their Master's in Social Work program. So I'm learning lots about human rights, and I watched y'all's previous meeting. Really enjoyed it. I learned a lot of what you guys had talked about. We were talking about in my class, so it's just kind of cool to see everything happening in real life versus just in the classroom. So thank you for letting me join, and I'm excited to listen in on what you guys are talking about tonight.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks for joining us.
And so that's all we have for the public comment. I'll just go ahead and jump into the liaison updates. Selfishly, I'll go first because I'm already talking. I sent the updates already to y'all, so, but one thing that isn't in there that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, can folks see my screen? You all see this flyer that I'm putting in the middle? Okay, that I should enlarge it. Wow. Okay. So March 20th, we have the Kurdish New Year, or Nowruz. So a little bit of context here. This is actually a BOLD graduate. So I'll be talking about BOLD soon, but it's the Beaverton Organizing Leadership Development Program, Shada, and she's currently on the Diversity Advisory Board right now. and works with THPRD, so well-connected person in the community. But during Welcoming Week last year, which is a week-long series of events that promotes welcoming in Beaverton, we had to cancel because I don't know if people recall the, I don't want to call it the Red Scare, like the weird smoky weather that we had amongst everything that went down in 2020. So we had to cancel that event, but we postponed it to this Saturday, March 20th. So a few weeks away. It's going to be 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And this is an in-person open air event. It's going to be right over at the Round over at City Hall by the large blue structure. There you will be able to sample some foods. Now, of course, with COVID restrictions, you can't eat any of the food under the tent, but on your way out, Shara is gonna give you some delicious treats. Then there's also just gonna be some dancing, some traditional music, and then some other folks there. I wanted to bring this to your attention, not just so you can go, but also just to let you know, the Vision Action Committee asked to have a table there. Shara said, yes, absolutely. I think that a lot of people don't know that the Kurdish community exists and is thriving in Beaverton, and vice versa. I think the Kurdish community needs to hear from other folks from the city as well. I said, hey, I'm going to an HRAC meeting tonight. Do you want me to mention this to them? She says, absolutely. This is me mentioning it to you. I know in the past, historically, HRAC has really wanted to have a presence in the community and have tables and whatnot. So if you are interested in anything like that, let me know. The other and last update I'm going to share, can folks, I don't know if you can see me moving around, but do you see the Beaverton website that's in front of me?
I see your cursor moving.
Okay, but I'm on the Beaverton website, so I'll stop sharing. I think I have to select what I share. So let me share again, and let's go here and share. All right, do y'all see that?
Yes.
Cool. As I mentioned earlier, this is a program that Shara has graduated from, and now she's doing a lot in the city. So BOLD, or Beaverton Organizing and Leadership Development Program, we are the city's recruiting for this. It's their 9th cohort that they are recruiting for. It is a now virtual leadership development program really targeted at minority populations. And it's a great step for folks to actually get a foot in the door in city government, and they meet the mayor, they meet other elected officials and city staff. They also meet folks from THPRD. That's actually how Shara connected and now works with THPRD. The chief comes. We have a whole series on what questions do you want to ask the chief, and then we invite the chief, we interview the chief, we have a long session with the chief, and also just generally other resources around the city. And the BOLD folks really do point out the directions they want. Last year, they wanted to hear from somebody who is in the affordable housing network, and so we had somebody there for that specifically. And so applications are due by March 19th. So that's Friday, I believe. Is that 2 weeks from now? Yeah, 2 weeks from now. They just go beavertonoregon.gov/bold. And these are the training sessions. Usually it's 3 Saturdays a month and they're full days. We decided sitting in front of a computer is really hard to do that for that long. So we separate it into 6 much smaller virtual sessions. And so they just, again, beavertonoregon.gov/bold, and they could apply, but do so before March 19th. So if you are interested, or anyone you think might be interested, please let them know. You could also connect them with me. So that's all I've got. Any questions before I go to the next person? Cool.
Actually, I do, Paolo.
Yeah.
When you were saying having a table at the Kurdish New Year event, were you talking about an HRAC table? Is that something that as a commission we need to consider?
Yeah, if you want to, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, and Sabdy and Mercy are in our attendees list. I'm upgrading them now. Yeah, just because in the past, pre-pandemic, right? Y'all were at Party at the Park, you were at the Pride Parade, you're at as many events as you could be. So that's there for you.
I would be down for that. Give me a call.
Okay. Cool. I'm going to turn it over I think I saw a message from Annala that she won't be able to make it tonight. So Annala, you're not here, are you? Okay, nope, no Annala. Lieutenant Stellingwerf and Sergeant Kramer, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As Paolo mentioned, I put in some little updates and stuff we're doing at the city. This week's our awards week. We're kind of doing a walkthrough event that would normally be a one evening type event, but because of COVID-19, we've changed that. So the other thing I mentioned in the updates was we're currently in our annual training teams are in service training. And like I mentioned, some of the subjects that we're covering is a new Senate Bill 110. That's regarding the decriminalization of different types of drugs, narcotics, and also we're doing the use of force, de-escalation, things like that. And then I brought Sergeant Sean Kramer along tonight. Some of you may have met him before, and I bring him along because he's part of the community services staff. So in our division, you have myself as a lieutenant, Paul Wandell as the captain, then we have two sergeants, Kevin McDonald for schools. And sorry, I'm reading my phone here. Evidently, Sean's mic isn't going to connect, so you're not going to get to talk to him after all. But he's a community service side of the house, and on the community service side, we have our victim advocates, our victim assistants, our volunteer coordinator, our community outreach and marketing. So there's a whole bunch of things. So what I'll periodically do here is I'll bring some of the folks from our division so you can meet them. I know some of you already met them and are familiar, but I also know it's a new year and we have some new board members. So it's just a way of getting to know some of the folks that are working over on the PD side. So with that, he just texted me. His mic isn't working, so I guess he's not going to have anything to say. But does anybody have any questions for me?
I see Kathy, I see Joy, and then Stephanie.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I'm really glad to see you back again. I was afraid we had chased you away because a couple of weeks ago or a couple of times ago, we were really talking about police. So how has your use of force training changed?
It doesn't change. Obviously, there's different things we have to train on. We have to stay current. Some of that is, firearms proficiency, less lethal use of force, defensive tactics, just different things. And it's something we do annually. It's part of our certification too. We have to do that in order to keep our police certifications in the state of Oregon. And also the de-escalation, obviously that's a big topic right now. So some of the training is just working on different de-escalation techniques. It's something that we've always done, but there's some emphasis on it now. So we just continue to try to get better at what we're already doing.
And how, with the new drug law, how are you working together with other agencies? Because decriminalizing means that you won't be stepping in as much.
Well, yes and no. So it took effect, I think, February 1. And forgive me, I've read some stuff. I haven't actually been to the training yet. Our trainer's really good at giving us the scoop on things to make it user friendly. But it's what they call it. I believe it's an e-violation now. So it's $100 fine for certain amounts. It doesn't decriminalize everything. I mean, you could still have manufacturing and distribution amounts and things like that are still crimes. But as far as working with other agencies, that's just like anything else. The legislature will pass a law, and we've got to learn what that is and follow it accordingly. So,
thank you.
Go ahead, Joy.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was curious as to when we were going to get to hear the report on policing and bias. last January we heard it, and we missed it this year, and that's our fault because we weren't done with last year's agenda, and I apologize. So I'm curious when we get to hear how it went last year. I understand that's an annual report.
I will look into that, and I will have to get back to you.
Stephanie?
Great, thank you. We're really grateful to have you here, and I wanted to say too, we do have a number of new members on our commission, and many of them were not privy to the amazing work that we were able to accomplish last year, and really the openness of particularly Chief Groshon to hearing our perspective and really being a part of opening dialogue. It's something that I hope that we can continue to cultivate this year, because I was really impressed with Chief Groshon and your willingness to hear the impact that police have within the community and to absorb a lot of different perspectives about the impact of police and in the community, and that openness has really been extraordinary, and I'm really grateful to it, because I think that we're really pioneering a new time, and I'm excited about this next step, because what we're doing right now is we're pioneers in a shift, a paradigm shift about what policing means and what that's going to look like. And I think it's a confusing and it's a difficult topic, and I'm so excited that we have fresh voices and new members this year to explore that with us. But I wanted to also challenge our group as we're interacting, because that's definitely going to be on our agenda for this year. You know, how are we going to stretch our ideas about what policing means now? And we're grateful that you're joining us for that conversation, because policing is changing, and what police means is changing, and we're just glad that the police department in Beaverton is open to being a part of that dialogue, because it has to happen and it needs to change, because so many different communities that haven't had their voices heard haven't had a chance to really put their perspective in, and we're glad that you've been open to willing to hear that perspective. So thank you for that. And Kathy already took care of my first question, which was asking about what the change in drug laws were meaning for you. So thank you for already answering that.
Yeah, and if anybody's curious about it, it's Oregon Senate Bill 110. Just Google it. It'll give you some of the pros, the cons, what that means, and other fun facts if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Sergeant Kramer, welcome
Can
back.
you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, I do most of my virtual meetings on Teams, and so this foray into Zoom, I wasn't familiar with. I had to get the settings adjusted on my privacy Zoom properly. So although Lieutenant Stellingwerf already introduced me, it's probably been a year since, maybe a little over a year since I checked in on your meeting. And I know there are a handful of new folks on the commission. So I'm Sergeant Kramer. Welcome, guys. I know that since I've been gone, you've had the chief here. So since the chief isn't here and I'm here, then that's a pretty precipitous fall in quality. So if Lieutenant Stellingwerf, just to kind of reintroduce sort of the chain of command, put a name to a face. If Lieutenant Stellingwerf can't make it, then I'll certainly be here to try and field your questions. And welcome to all the new folks. Glad to meet you all. And I'm just another individual that you can reach out to for anything that you need.
Thank you so much for being an assistant to us as we promote equality in our community.
Absolutely.
It's good to have you back again, Sergeant. Your energy is always contagious. Keep it up. I just want to say too that I did speak to the chief a few times, and the chief said, hey, I'd be happy to come by. Same as she did last month, but I was also just looking at the agenda. I try to also respect that the chief has a really big job and is really busy. And so if the chief doesn't have to be here at the moment, I'm just like, Chief, don't worry about it, hang back. But the chief misses y'all and is totally available and can be available at a future meeting if we request, especially since, you know, I did let the chief know also that, hey, through the Padlet activity, it's looking like BPD is pretty popular, but more to come later. So maybe we'll see the chief around more. I think I saw a hand poke up. Was that you, Kathy?
It's just a quick follow-up. And it seems to me that for Bill 110 to work, it isn't just the police that need changing. We need to really upgrade our mental health and drug rehab and so on. Does anyone know, is that key piece happening?
Well, I will say, Kathy, we are going to get into what HRAC is going to do about that and how we're going to start addressing that in a little bit as we discuss our priority areas and make some decisions around that.
Yeah, in the short answer, Kathy, we don't know yet. Obviously, that's all built in. There are measures or things in place with the Senate bill that focus on rehabilitation and addiction and things like that. But it's only been in effect for a month, so we really don't know the impact it's going to have, and that's going to take some time.
I'd just like to say I'm delighted that we live in a city where a month in, it hasn't impacted police, because we're so fortunate to live in a city where that's not as urgent an issue. So I'm grateful we're doing something right here. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate the folks in blue very much. And I hope the chief feels welcome. Just worried about that.
Oh no, just like, should I come or should I do it? I was like, I mean, you can, you're always welcome. You're also really busy. So I think I might have seen, Kathy, was that a hand up again? And then No? Okay, Spencer.
Chief Groshong participated in a panel, including the chiefs from Hillsborough and Tualatin at the Washington County Public Affairs Forum. She did a great job. It was very informative. And we very much appreciate her being able to do that. So yes, she's really, really busy. She's all over the place.
Lieutenant, will you please share that message with the chief? We could just do this or that.
Yeah, I certainly will. Thank you.
Cool, thanks so much. All right, if there's nothing else, all right, I'm gonna turn it over to Councilor Hasan.
Hello, everybody. Just hope you're all doing well. Wanted to try to provide a bit of an update for you. I know that y'all gave us your recommendations a good month or so ago. And last night I did ask during City Council in public forum to kind of get a sense of what our next steps look like, because you know, I know that we're all anxiously hoping that we can start continuing to move these conversations specifically around your recommendations. So I'm looking at my phone because I asked our city manager to just help me understand like where we are right now. And so I'm just going to read his text because it's the best way to explain it. It sounds like they're going to come back on March 16th. So not this next meeting, but the meeting after, to bring the first of a series of decision points for council. And then they're going to put together potentially a sequence and schedule for other items. And so I think what they're trying to do in partnership with the chief is, what are the things that are potentially easy to accomplish? And what are the things that are going to be a little bit more challenging to accomplish? And then finding ways to allocate the time for that. And then just to give you a little bit of, just to take you back, of no fault of your own, this new form of government has created a lot of just things that need to get done, right? You know, the mayor shared you could walk into the mayor's office last year, say, I want to do this, and then they did it. And that's not how it works anymore. And so the backlog of having to go through city council has made our meetings become significantly longer. You know, I think I signed off at 10:30 last night. So as this is a priority, it just keeps kind of getting in the mix of things. So I continue to bring it up to my fellow city councilors to make sure that we continue to address it. And I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. One side note, not on the recommendations, we are recruiting for our city manager. And so we've posted the job. And if you want to learn more, there will be a survey that we're going to send out as well. And we'd love to hear from you on what you want to see in our future city manager, just something for you to be thinking about as well. I'll take questions. Dori.
Thank you, Councilor Hasan. You know, my major question would be that one of the recommendations was around communication and developing those communication lines, authentic relationships with communities of color. That doesn't have to wait for you all to go through those recommendations. So I'm just wondering, what work has the city council, the mayor, and the city manager made towards doing that work?
I'll be super honest, none. You know, I don't think that that's happened. I think that I'm happy to share that with the city manager to give that feedback, that I think that that is really important. I agree with you. I think that it is very important. And I would encourage you all to let us know on city council. We all need to continue to hear from you. It helps. I know that for some of you that might be asking a lot, and so I'm not telling you to do that, but if you are able to, but Dori, you bring up a really good point, and I'll make it a point to bring it up in public comment next week at city council, but I will also ask our city manager to follow up on that. Write it down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I was on the city council website, so because I was going to link it to you all if you ever wanted to participate in a city council meeting, which are Tuesdays at 6:30. So I didn't see if there were any hands up or anything. I wasn't paying attention, but I had a good reason. Any questions for Councilor Hasan? All right. Oh, just kidding. Kathy.
Sorry, this may be more for you, but it is a city question. A couple of months ago at City Council, maybe 3 months ago now, there was a presentation about equity in hiring, and there was a horrible discrepancy in our city between applications from people of color and hiring of people of color. And we were assured that it would be taken care of, looked at. What has happened? That, I think that was in December, that report.
Yeah, so I will say I probably didn't hear that presentation, but I think you probably captured it well enough for me to have a sense. I know that the city has an internal equity team that does some work around that, but I will tell you that Councilor Sansucci and I, when we worked on the city manager materials, the #1 strategic priority that we mentioned, if you look at that website, was a commitment to racial equity. So while we cannot maybe fix the things that could be happening right now or in the past, our hope with this hiring of the city manager, who's really going to be a critical person that we add to our staff, that is the top priority. And not only is it the top priority, we also link the DEI plan. So I dropped the link for the city manager. If you click and go to the recruitment brochure, which you might have to click on apply today. It's like a couple clicks, and then you'll see a recruitment brochure. So key city initiatives, and racial equity is the top one. So I hope that helps for now.
It's quite a while till the new city manager gets hired. And it seems like the hiring practices go on in every single unit, department. And I'm wondering really if each department is looking into their changes. I don't think it requires a new city manager to do that. It might.
Yeah,
Thank
and Kathy, I have not I have been doing onboarding with the city, and I've actually not done one of my onboarding sessions, and that is with HR. And so I am going to make sure that I bring it up with HR, specifically
Thank you.
writing it right now, hiring practices and things that we can be doing. So I have taken that, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you. That really is important in our city. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. If that wraps up, questions are we ready to move on to our priority areas?
I saw
Paolo?
I have a
Mercy's
quick
hand.
question.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I just want to add to Kathy's question of hiring practices and stuff like that. But one thing I also wanted to add there is not just hiring, it's how you maintain those you hire. You know, because we talk about equity, but once you guys hire people, you want to compare them with other people, and everybody is not on the same level. So we have to look into how you maintain people that you hire as well.
That's
So
an important point, Mercy. And something else I was thinking about, and I see Dori posted it too, is perhaps we should talk with Patricia, the HR director, and touch base with her again about hiring practices.
I'm going to reach out to Patricia. Her and I were talking about having her visit again, just trying to find the time. And so I will ask her to come in one of the future meetings, talk about hiring practices.
That would be wonderful.
thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Were we going to hear from our youth?
Yeah, Annala isn't with us today.
Yeah, I noticed. But I know you had sent out information on her update. Was there anything that needed to be added to that?
I didn't hear any updates from her to add, but if you have any questions that you'd like me to direct to her, I'm more than happy to.
Do you have something to add, Spencer?
Some of us are waving goodbye at Lieutenant Stellingwerf, sorry.
Sorry, Lieutenant.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry to be a distraction. Yeah, I'm going to bow out, but everybody knows how to get a hold of me if you need anything. Okay, have a good meeting.
Have a great month.
All right, good night.
Thank you, Sergeant. All righty.
All right. Well, I'm excited to move on to this next piece, and I'm going to do my very best. One of my priorities for this year is to keep us pretty close to being on time, because I know 2 hours on Zoom is a lot for all of us. And if you're like many of us, you've had a few other Zoom meetings earlier today too. So I will do my best to keep us on schedule. But the area that we were looking at from the Padlet results are pretty exciting. So did everybody get a chance to review those and see what was on the Padlet results? I think Paolo can put that up on a screen share too.
Okay, cool. On it. Oh, no. I'm working on it, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm not surprised by this, but again, from the results, the Padlet results, what we're seeing a great emphasis on is continuing the Beaverton Police Department work. And I'm really grateful to hear that, because we worked so hard on it last year. And as I was saying earlier, we're really in a precipice of change right now. We don't know what the police need to look like. And I think that this commission is a big part of defining what policing means and being a part of that shifting definition of what police means in our community, and how do we shift policing so that it is truly in service to all community members. And so if you look at the Padlet results, our top one here is lobbying city council to adopt HRAC's recommendations. And that's going to be an ongoing effort, because truthfully, it's easy to get distracted for council, and we're going to have to be the squeaky wheel that shows up and shows up again and shows up again. And as Paolo was saying, if we don't show up at those meetings and say, hey, what about us? It's going to be something that gets kind of brushed under the rug. And that's something that we need to continue to be vocal about. So that priority definitely needs to be addressed. Does anybody have any thoughts or ideas about how that's going to look? Joy?
Yes, so I did watch, not this last week, but the week before's meeting and their discussion. And it's my understanding that folks that are, it's easier to get people to say good things at this point about the police department than negative things. And I can understand, as a marginalized person, that would be a challenge to want to speak up. And so what I understood is that right before our presentation, a bunch of letters supporting the police department and how fabulous they are, and we're not saying they're not, appeared at the city council meeting. And I have been talking to some of my friends who have had less than happy experiences, but it's a challenge to get folks to bring that to city council because they don't want to be retaliated against any further. So that's a challenge I've been trying to at least feel out within my social group of the few people that I interact with anymore. So that's my thought, that that's a challenge of trying to get the marginalized folks to speak up in a place where they believe they will be heard.
How do you think we can support that? Do people have ideas on that?
Just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because I'm sharing my screen. I can't see who's raising their hands. I can't get in the chat or anything like that. So if you can, maybe chairs, if you could, I'll lean on you a little bit for some of that facilitation, but I guess I'll just hang back. Okay.
Spencer has something he needs to say.
What if we somehow become the conduit for marginalized communities, people who are afraid or uncomfortable in addressing council directly, and we become the conduit for passing those concerns on to council? Is that a possibility?
Would it mean as much if it came from us and not directly to them?
We can make it clear the general source of the concerns and comments without mentioning individual citizens.
Dori has her hand up, and then I do as well. And I'd like Dori to go before me.
I can't, oh, there we go. Family was able to unmute. Paul, can you do me a favor? And I know it's difficult to stop and start share, but I also love to see everybody. So if you could stop sharing for a minute so I can see faces. So I want to call it out because I just saw it and witnessed it. So I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to move to communities of color voicing their hurt and their pain. So I want to start with, how are we approaching the police at this point? Because what I heard, which was wonderful, a lot of positive feedback. We want to be engaged with you. That understanding with Lieutenant Stellingwerf and, gosh, I always forget his name, Sergeant Kramer and Chief. I don't think we have to worry so much about damaging relationships by being critical. I think we have to be civil, right? So I think there's two separate things here. People feel like Chief got mad at them at the last meeting or was disappointed, and that's fine. that is Chief's feeling, and it doesn't have to be projected on all of us. So I just want to say that out, put that out there for folks, and that's how I personally see it. Then that second piece of, and I'd like to call for other voices on this. We go to communities that have been impacted and traumatized. Why? And so for me, from a sociological standpoint, there are great ethnographic ways to collect that data. That means going and having conversations and bringing that data back. As a sociologist, I would love to do that for you. And that's valid research, right? Stephanie and I were joking about it at the beginning of the hour. You know, science is sometimes considered the data that you collect. And I consider information to be valid research as well. And that's one way to do that. And I'm going to say this, as a person who's a member of the community, one of the communities of color in this city, I think it's really important for people to just believe me about my experiences. I do understand, though, that data and information helps. So I'm going to balance that. And then I would open it up to, I think, Laurel, you had something you wanted to add about that collection of information.
I did. Thanks, Dori. Just also taking a moment to let everything Dori just said land, because that was all really, really important. My comment was less about gathering information and more back to lobbying council. I am curious from a procedural perspective, what are our options as a collective, as a commission, to lobby council outside of us as individuals calling in for public commentary? And Councilor Hasan and Paolo, I don't know if you can speak to that at all. Like, how do I request time for HRAC?
So I could speak on it just like internally how we usually get things on the agenda. So there's the public testimony, which I think you're speaking of us, of y'all coming in as individuals. But then I think what you're asking is, how does HRAC come in to like, this will be on the agenda as an actual agenda item? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
You let me know, and I usually need to get agenda bills in 2 weeks ahead of time. And so hopefully give me 2 weeks advance notice, and I will try to get you on the agenda.
So if we wanted to have even standing time to come to council meetings and say, what progress have you made on implementing our recommendations from last year? We could do that.
I am going to say yes, with also, I'm going to confirm that. But as far as I know, yes. I don't see why you wouldn't. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah, what Dori said, can you just go ahead and do that now?
Was there another ask there? I'm sorry.
Oh, Dori had a comment in the chat.
I'm just going to throw this out. I think from a strategic standpoint, we have to be strategic about it. So if we can say that we're going to be on every agenda, we can take that opportunity. Not only, Stephanie used some language that I'm going to push back on, and I'm going to say I disagree with. It's not being the squeaky wheel. It's helping people to learn what's needed and necessary. So, I will more than offer some of my time to research each topic and bring an article to share with the counselors at every single meeting they have. It'll be short. It won't take them a lot of time to read, but it will be something that will educate them about policing.
I'd like to offer to help Dori with whatever would make that possible, because that seems awesome.
That's a fantastic idea, and I love that correction, Dori, that it isn't just about somehow being a bit more annoying, that it really is about an educational opportunity, and that when we educate, we're addressing an origin-based issue versus just trying to throw tantrums and get some attention that evaporates really when we stop speaking. And this is, you're absolutely right. This is the approach that creates longevity and shifts the perspective really for the whole community. Joy, please.
I would categorize this as a self-determination movement of the people of Beaverton. And squeaks are educational tools. That's how you find out where attention needs to come here. And so I'm down with being a self-determination movement of the people.
Well, Dori always adds edification for all of us. So thank you, Dori. Kathy, please.
I'd like to make just one quick comment that's a bit different, and then go ahead and onto what the rest of you were talking. I'd rather we talk about community safety than policing, because that is really what we want. And we may even want to have a vision of that and put it in words, put it on paper, but it is community safety. So, but the other thing is, I am really research oriented and have done, I just really am, and would love to support all of that research, including interviews. I've done lots of interviews, and yeah, and the strategies. I'm hoping, I think we'll get to this, that we will anticipate pushback and get the research that really solidifies why we're making particular asks.
Thank you for that. Paolo, would you be able to just add up the results one more time as we're continuing to look at this category that we're discussing?
The Padlet, is that what you're saying?
The Padlet results.
Yeah, sure. And I wrote everyone's names down that said they want to be part of the research project. And I also saw Councilor Hasan. So I'm going to go share now and mute.
Great. Councilor Hasan, please. I didn't realize you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
I'm excited for the energy that you all have, and I'm super behind it. I hope that we can get you on the agenda as much as possible. I don't know how realistic that will be, but I just share that with you to just to let you know that. I will share one comment that I've heard some of city councilors say, just for your reference, and that is that there is, I think, a belief that that the problems that are happening with police or community safety don't happen in Beaverton. And I won't personally comment on that, but I think it's something that will help inform you as you decide how you want to continue to move forward in the conversations that you choose to have with us.
Is the public forum, the public comment period, is that where we can get a consistent presence?
Yes, you should still ask, Paolo, don't do the thing. If that doesn't work, around between 6:35 and 6:45-ish, there's a phone number where you can call in, and Kathy, I heard from Kathy last night. So, and each person gets anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to speak. And it's very public in the sense that we're all there, and it's also at the beginning of the meeting, so you're catching us. I would hate for you to be like a 10 p.m. show. That's probably not going to be our best for all of you.
Great. Ashubin?
Hi. So I'm really, I just want to say I appreciate all the energy that is going towards this, of making sure that continuity is still happening, because you're right, Stephanie, we did a lot of work on this last year. And I hear some great ideas, and I want to throw a couple of maybe ideas out there that maybe HRAC hasn't done, but doesn't mean we can't do. One, what do we think about writing policy and bringing that to the council? And two, what do we think about looking at the budget? They're going to vote on the budget in a few months and proposing a budget for them that is reflective of shifting from law enforcement oriented to more community safety focused. And we can do that. I know there's a similar effort happening in Portland where they are taking the budget as it is and looking at it, analyzing it line by line, and then creating a budget that they are proposing. So I'm offering that to you all, that we don't have to just sit with the recommendations we made. We can go further. We gained a lot of knowledge. Let's make some policy out of that. Let's give them some demands on where the money should go.
Excellent. Spencer, did you have more to add?
I have a question or a comment. I've worked with at the state capitol on advancing legislation. And in addition to testifying in committee, which would, I suppose, be equivalent to making comments before the city council, there's also value in approaching individual legislators. Does the same hold true for city government? If in small groups we were to approach the city councilors as individuals and make our cases that way, is that helpful?
Yeah, so I'll speak on my behalf. I have people that email, I will tell you, we get anywhere from 1 to 10 emails a week about different things that people are upset about, would like to see more of, would like to see less of. And so if you want to send us an email, if you want to request time to meet, you are our residents, you are our constituents. That is what we should be doing for you as counselors. So that is something that you are absolutely allowed to do.
Okay.
I think I saw Joy's hand at one point, right?
Yes, I had a response for the counselor's observation. I have heard this not in my backyard before, which is a classic logic error. So the usual response, especially in writing, responding to issues, is if it's not happening here, it's not happening. To me, it doesn't matter, which is generally considered a conservative view. And my response is that my particular background in the fire service, working for that side of 911, is that when something happens somewhere, it's extrapolated that it can happen here. For example, I don't know how many of you remember the Northridge earthquake, where it was an earthquake within an urban center. My urban search and rescue team deployed on that. But the entire fire service took that up as that could happen here. And what do you know? Now we all do earthquake preparedness so that we don't have that. We can prevent something from happening here because we don't live in a country of walls. What happens over there can happen here. So that was my response.
Yeah,
and perhaps we could, as a city, decide we could be proactive and say, this could happen here. How do we keep that from happening here? And that's my approach, not to be critical, but to say, bad things happen everywhere. The rain falls everywhere. Let's prevent some trouble here.
Excellent. Mercy?
Yes, thank you. And I had a response to the counselor too, because it's not the first time for me to hear that it's just not happening in Beaverton or it's not happening in Portland. Well, it does not have to happen in Beaverton. And I know Joy just spoke to that, but I want to speak to that too. It's not happening in Beaverton. How can we prevent it from happening in Beaverton? And there are other things that are happening that don't have to be like someone died, but those things that have happened could have lead to some big thing, you know? So we're trying to have this conversation so that It does not have to happen here. And if you are looking for comment and people who have had the experience, I think we should listen to them, and they shouldn't always say it haven't happened here, but there are other stuff that are happening here that shouldn't be happening here. So that statement, I've heard it before on the same line, that it's not happening in Beaverton. Does that mean we shouldn't talk about it when it happens somewhere else? I think we're trying to be proactive because there are other stuff that are happening that shouldn't be happening. So I think we should all have the right to speak on whatever we want to speak on. And if they want to listen to us, they can listen to us. But that idea like it's not happening in Beaverton, so don't talk about it, is trying to shut people off. So I don't think we need to be using those kind of words, because we need to talk about what we need to talk about. If you're not going to hear it and do something about it, it's up to you. But then don't waste our time.
Mercy makes an excellent point. There's no question that there's inequality happening in our community, and to pretend otherwise would be disingenuous. So yeah, I don't think there's any question about that, Mercy. We have to remain vigilant in advocating for that. I also wanted to make sure everybody saw in the chat Laurel's comment about where you can email if you feel like you're more of a writer than a speaker. We have places that we can email. So again, the more fronts that we take on this, the more education that can be delivered.
I saw Kathy.
Just real quick, I've heard a lot of people tell their stories about how they have been intimidated here and hurt by the police and the SROs, and council members have heard some of that at the Juneteenth program in the city. Some people spoke out. So it isn't that council members have not had the opportunity to learn. They just tuned it out, and people do tune it out. So we need to, part of being an ally is standing next to people or behind them as they are telling their stories, and we affirming that, making sure that other people listen.
And let's not forget the power of repetition as part of an educational tool also. Okay, I'm really committed to keeping us on time, and we have an hour to move through this agenda. As Paolo, I'm sorry I keep asking you to put up and take down. I too like it when we're doing the discussion to actually see more people.
Yeah, no, I'll share it again. Do you want me to put just the BPD part up? Because my screen's not big enough to actually throw all the top 3 that y'all voted on there.
Right. If you could put up the BPD work again, because we have a few more points.
Sure,
and,
sure.
And I feel like this is such a huge topic. It received a lot of prominence in the results of the Padlet.
Yeah, it was.
I forget the exact percentage, but I mean there was a lot of consensus on that area.
It was, and I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen, but I'll also copy paste all the points in the chat so you could cycle through them too. And right. I think I emailed it to all of you.
You emailed it to all.
Yeah, I got it here.
Have it up.
But I will share it, and count. Well, you're leading. Go ahead.
Can I add one thing? So sorry.
Go ahead, please.
I just want to share, just to give you a sense, and when I share things, I know that I hear all of you, and I believe that we have some work to do. I just want to give you an example of an email that I as a counselor receive every month. This email is called Crime Report, Oregon's Washington County Second in Foreign National Crime in January 2021. This data is compiled by an individual who has no actual qualifications, except for the fact that they pull the numbers of foreign nationals, also known as criminal aliens, that have been incarcerated in the Oregon Department of Corrections. Every month, this individual sends us this email, which includes a table on data of what allegedly criminal aliens have done. I share that with you just to help you understand the types of emails that we get as city councilors. So if you're shy about coming to speak at public comment, it's okay to send an email, because I get one of these every month. And it gives me pause when we talk about police and community safety, because this is, in my opinion, a scare tactic email that I get every month, along with others. So just kind of giving you a sense of what we get on the other side, and really recognizing how hard you're working, and that I do see everything that you're trying to do, and I'm really excited about it.
It's also extremely racist.
Yes, it is.
Thanks for that, Truth Bomb. Okay. Another area that we're looking at is making sure we ensure rights and humanity of those arrested. And we're looking at the question, how do we prevent another situation? As Joy was alluding to earlier, you know, it's about preparedness. We want to focus on prevention. It doesn't mean that we are having a terrible time, or that horrible things are constantly happening, but we want to make sure that we're focused on prevention. And so not only are we looking to educate and improve, but I think there's a prevention element that we're asking the question about as well. Were there other areas? I mean, this topic received a lot of attention and in our priorities of what we want to focus on. And already we're getting some really concrete ideas about how we can implement this. Policy, tying policy to budget, presence with the council, and taking an educational approach to that. Anybody else have really specific ideas about how we can implement this, and or additional comments on how we need to address this, or an angle that we're not looking at right now, or that you're not seeing? Joy.
I would like to make recommendations, fully formed and researched recommendations that take non-policing tasks and away from the police, which is a very specific skill set, and put them with the right folks. For example, City and County of Denver, where I was a medic last, has just completed a 6-month pilot program with a car that wasn't a police officer and a mental health professional. It was a paramedic and a mental health professional, because a lot of times mental health goes with physical health. And in 6 months, they handled over 500 calls, and they had no referrals to the police. Now, I will say, as a medic myself, I have called for police when I need it. Medics know when to do that. But it's easier to, there's a 5-year seasoning process with the police to get a new officer to do a new thing. When if we could make recommendations where necessary, so that that's not one more thing they have to do. I would like to see that happen as well.
Great. I would like to add also that, you know, we have the HRAC recommendations, and as a group, as a commission, I think it's important that we continue to reference them and refer back to them, keep them really fresh in our mind. So that, you know, we've worked so hard on these recommendations, and as we're approaching council, and as we're working on other ways to interact with the police department, that we're keeping a firm focus on what we've recommended, and making sure that we keep that really fresh in our own minds about what what our initial recommendations are so that those don't get lost. And I think that's a commitment we need to make as a commission. I think we've got some really great first steps, some very concrete things, and I'm looking forward to expanding on those as we move through this. Are there any other components that I should add? Jarrett has something to add.
Yeah, I just kind of struck by this idea that there might be a mentality amongst some that the problem doesn't really exist, and I think one way to really address that is to kind of keep pushing this idea of 8 can't wait. And just looking at the list of 8 can't wait, it's all directed toward, really prevention rather than just, of course it responds to existing issues as well, but require de-escalation, use of force continuum, ban chokeholds, ban shooting at moving vehicles. I think that's all designed to prevent an incident like this from happening. So if we want to approach it from that angle of prevention, that is one thing to really just keep pushing. And I know we are pushing that, but yeah, it speaks to, preventing that issue before it exists in our community.
Thank you. Lisa, Brett, Sabdy, did I pronounce your name correctly? Please correct me if I didn't. I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity also to put some comments in if you're feeling in agreement with this. Lisa, please.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it sounds like we're all in agreement that this is a priority and probably needs to take first and second out of, I don't know how many we're trying to have, but I just feel strongly that we all feel passionate that this work is really important to what we're trying to achieve as a commission. And so I feel like this is not work that should be one of 3 different projects we're doing. I feel pretty strongly that it needs to be at least we need to take all of these ideas and run with as many as we can under this topic. That's kind of my feeling.
Effectiveness is going to be, we have a limited amount of time and energy, and I concur with you on that, and I'm open to hearing what other people have to say too, but I think the more we can keep a laser focus on what our priorities are, and then the more targeted we can be, the more effective we'll be. Sabdy?
Hi there. So yes, I'm definitely in agreement. The one thing I wanted to point on is that in the message panel earlier up, Dori wrote a comment saying that in our bylaws that we are in an advisory capacity only, et cetera, when it comes to the topic of putting together policy. So I just wanted to make sure we kind of flesh out that thought in that we wouldn't be putting policy, but we'd essentially be almost doing the homework for them when it comes to how we present the idea, because it's so well thought out, because we've applied the research, et cetera, but we wouldn't call it a policy because it's not our area to do that.
Good point. Brett?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm also in agreement. I really think that Dori's idea about going to council with research and continuing to do that work is really important. As somebody who really loves research, I know that changes perspectives quite often. The other thing that I was thinking as well was it was sort of way back at the beginning that we were talking about, but this idea of sort of expecting community members, especially community members who don't have great experiences with police, to ask them to come forward or give that information when they may not feel safe doesn't feel fair to me either. If there was a way that we could anonymously gather that information and be the council or the commission that goes to council with that, I think that I would be behind that, but I don't want to put an extra burden on another community.
Agreed.
That's an excellent point, and I think we need to again remember that part of the reason we are in existence at our commission is to seek out communities that may not already be vocal and provide a conduit or a voice for them. Okay. So that it sounds like we'll be doing a lot of work on that, Paolo.
Yeah. I just want to say that made me think of something, Britt, that was done before for it was called the Voices of Beaverton. I worked on it a little bit. It was also the Diversity Advisory Board who supported it, and we did it in collaboration with the development department's. It was their housing court, and I forget exactly what the name of the program is, but there was just an interview. It was an interview project where DAB members, Diversity Advisory Board DAB members, got into the community and collect real stories of what their lived experiences are, and in terms of accessing housing, what's their safety, what are your issues, what is your life. And then people would use synonyms if they wanted to. They could or could not have a picture. They would be recorded, but they would. There was a lot of put into it in terms of how to protect somebody's identity, but also bring it forward in the public scale. And so some of that has been done already, and maybe could dovetail into this. So I just wanted to share that. I heard that and it triggered that for me. The other thing I wanted to mention too is y'all, I think, came up with about 7 or 8 different topics that were that we put on the Padlet, and all of them are so incredibly important. I wish I could put them all, but working on 8 different things would make me very nervous. One thing I just wanted to offer is I did put the top 3 in there, and I just wanted to offer it to you as an option to consider that in the past, historically, HRAC has done subcommittees, and there are advantages and disadvantages, in my opinion, for how subcommittees work. But then the other idea too is just having like focus areas. So areas that HRAC wants to prioritize for 2021 that they may not be working at a time, but basically when it's relevant or when it's but most strategically appropriate to focus on one topic, then that is the main discussion. So the top 3 that you all came up with were, again, continuing the BPD work, ADA accessibility in city spaces, and supporting individuals with mental health. That had a lot of support. Like it was almost neck and neck with BPD. And then the other one, I'm blanking. What's the last one? Even though I said it.
Access to vaccines and
yes.
General COVID inequities.
Yes. So just wanted to throw those out there as you're talking about implementation and whatnot, that there are different ways to go about it.
So I'm going to jump a little bit on the topics to the ADA accessibility and supporting individuals with mental health, because I think that actually ties in more with the BPD work than maybe we initially thought of, because as we've continued to make these recommendations to council, one aspect of that is to try to separate when the police need to be called versus when we're really working with a mental health concern. And so I don't know if that becomes something that is actually tied together, is beginning to separate police, or having police redirect to mental health resources. I'd be really interested to hear thoughts other people have on how we address that. Laurel, please.
Sorry, it jumps out at me that our focus area is community safety. All 3 of those things are ultimately tied back to community safety. And what we've identified is pathways toward community safety. So we've identified those broad areas of focus are ultimately under that same umbrella. And maybe if we define our focus area as community safety and then look for additional pathways toward that, that'll help us also to keep that so I'm really interested in us looking at what is our what, what is our why, and what is our how? What do we want to accomplish? Why do we want to accomplish that? And how will we accomplish that? And so to me, it looks like we have identified our what and our why, that we care about the safety of our community. And so within that, there's the question of police accountability and police interaction with the community. There's the topic of ADA accessibility. There's the topic of equity for people with of diverse mental health needs. And then, so that with our what and our why, then that's left with the question of the how. And what I see there is a huge possibility for each of us as individuals to identify that's the how I want to do. And look at how much energy we got around that so quickly with lobbying council, that so many of us bring these strengths to this already. Like, hey, I know how to do that. So that's part of what I see in terms of we're not able to do subcommittee work through Zoom, but I do think we have a huge possibility to be able to connect with one another on a smaller scale, right? That Dori can step up and say, I want to take on that part of the how, and I can say, I also want to take on that part of the how. And that is also giving us that opportunity of those of us who have the bandwidth, the time, the energy, who are resourced enough to do stuff outside of the meetings. I think that gives us a really good opportunity there.
I cannot thank you enough for distilling that. I think that provided such clarity in where we're needing to direct and becomes the focus that we need. Does anyone else have any additional comments on that, or is there a general feeling of coalescing around that thought?
I can't say how much I love our junior past chair.
She's awesome. No question.
Lisa.
Yeah, please. Lisa.
I just want to come back to like, I like that we're thinking of like what's important to us, but I still think that that is too much to do as a council. I feel pretty strongly that like those are too many things for us to focus on, and we still need to do some work to narrow. I don't know if others disagree. I'm open to that.
So Lisa, what do you think about distilling it to our broader topic is something like community safety? Then we have continuing work with BPD, and we're assigning specifics to how we continue to interact with council. And then we're also, part of that is emphasizing the mental health aspect of that as part of our push towards council. And then while we're doing that, we're looking at asking a lot more questions. And I think there need to be more questions as to what the city is doing as far as access to information and how the city is addressing inequalities with COVID. So could we hit it in that way? And then our broader topic is community safety, but we're getting very specific as to, okay, we're focusing on the recommendations and how we're lobbying council with that. And then mental health, how the council is addressing that in conjunction with really the recommendations that we've already pushed forward. And then providing more inquiries into, well, what is the city doing? Maybe not necessarily we're addressing how those inequalities are showing up, but pushing the city to ask that question and answer those questions about what they're doing about it. Does that feel doable?
Yeah, I think if there's like smaller requests or things that, and I think even like I mean, this is my first year, so I don't really know how things tend to run, but like even throughout the year, there may be things that come up that we want to push to council and be like, we think as a group, this is important. And I think some of those topics could be, I mean, not just that, but that could be the main frame of what we're doing, is saying, these are things that we identified as really important, and we want you to do some work around this as a council and give us feedback of what you're doing so we can talk more about it, and then focus the majority of our efforts on, you know, stuff that's more interesting and time consuming, which would be, you know, making policy recommendations and work around our concerns about community safety in regards to like racial justice and equity and police violence.
Great. Yes, Kathy, please.
What I really like about Dori's suggestion about bringing them research, article, report, is that it brings them suggestions. So instead of they're not sure what to do. We know more about community safety than they do, actually. And let's make it easy for them. Let's not just ask what they're doing, let's make suggestions. And I would truly, and this is something I can do, I'd like to be part of a budget team and get that started now. I have ideas. It would only take one or two other people and we can get moving on that. That's my suggestion.
Okay. As
Mercy,
far as the asking questions, I'm not exactly sure what the city is doing to address COVID inequities. And so I guess that would be a starting point for me. And please, other people, you know, I'm not trying to speak for the group, but that's an area where I don't know what the city is doing. And by becoming informed, I may have opinions or other suggestions. And so perhaps that becomes an information gathering area. And then, you know, things like budget or those types of things, I encourage you to look for ways that you can be actively involved or put ideas forward. Okay, I feel like there were hands up and
Mercy's hand was up.
Mercy, please.
Oh, I was just trying to add to Kathy respond to Dora's suggestion. And I think researching topic that's going to fall under the broader topic of community safety. I think it's a great idea because we spent hours and hours and months on this topic that we discussed last time, and one day changed the whole thing, and people started withdrawing from their idea and suggestion and the work that they have put into this topic that we had discussed for 6 months. So that's why after we identify what's going to be under this big umbrella of community safety, we have to really research those things before we start getting into them. And the second thing, it has to do with the question raised about what the city is doing about COVID vaccine. I know that I am in a lot of other Zoom meetings daily because of the nature of my work. And I know that this Washington County as a whole, they are trying to reach out to community nonprofit organizations, culturally specific like mine, and they're trying to seek ideas on how they want how the community think that they should respond to the vaccine distribution. So those are things that we talk about almost every day. And the counties are really doing a great job reaching out to nonprofit, especially the culturally specific organizations, so that we can all brainstorm and discuss how the vaccine is going to be distributed. So I just wanted to say what I know about what the county is doing.
Excellent, Mercy. I feel like we have an inside track on that already then. I'm going to lean on you heavily to inform the commission on what we can do to assist the nonprofits and to assist in that area as we're also gaining knowledge from the city as to what's going on. But I think we're going to lean on you heavily for that.
Yeah, I know that's what the county is doing. I just don't know what the city is doing, but right. I'm sure that whatever the county is doing is going to link into the city. I'm not sure, but that's just what I know about it, because I'm too much involved in the COVID and our COVID wrap around everything else. So I can speak to that.
That would be incredibly helpful. Well, great. So do we feel like we've identified 1 to 2 areas where we can really prioritize the work? Because that's what we're really trying to get to on our agenda here. Do we think we've distilled that? Yeah, please, Joy.
So in my head, I see this structure. So we have a couple of subcommittees. We get a report from Mercy and her subcommittee on COVID. We get a report from Kathy and her subcommittee on the budget. and whoever else, and then we work on BPD reform or police reform, because that seems to be how our structure, how this conversation looks. We all work on police reform. It sounds like we're all interested, and then folks with a special interest outside give us a report, just like we get reports from all the other groups. So then we can
That's
accomplish.
how I'm envisioning it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that as a group, we kind of report back, but we keep it really targeted specifically on what the agendas that we have. And I hope in our next meeting as chairs and recorders that we can distill what everybody has talked about today even further, so that we can be super targeted and really have assigned work that we know what we're going to do in between meetings. Is there consensus on that?
Looks like it to me.
Please help me, people. Like,
Thumbs up
I
for
need
yes.
a lot of affirmation here.
Thumbs down
Okay.
for now.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Thank you.
looks good.
I want to make sure it's not just I don't want to just be echoing what's in my head. I want to make sure that we're in agreement, and that the wise minds of this commission are building the consensus and are really building the agenda, because I know nothing's going to happen unless there's passion from the commissioners here, and I really want to see all of us bring that forward. Okay, so we're coming to a close as to our discussion areas. I feel like we made a lot of progress on what the priority areas are, and as Lisa was saying, we have other areas that we would like to address as they're coming up, and Joy's going to lead us in that discussion on an area that's come to our attention that would be something that would be really helpful for HRAC to weigh in on. And so I'll hand it over to you, Joy.
Thank you, Stephanie. So coming up, we have an election coming up for an open city council seat. And would we like to invite all the candidates to come and answer questions from us? Is that something that we're interested in doing? And it would have to be the next meeting, because the election is May. So we could, after the deadline, anyone who has declared for office, have them come and visit us, and we can ask them questions. Or do we want to put together a list of questions and have them respond? Is this something interesting at all?
What do you want to get out of it?
Well, wouldn't it be interested to know what all the candidates for city council for the new seat, this is a brand new seat, so there's no incumbent, how they stand on certain human rights issues?
So
I will say,
the first
go ahead, Pal.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councilor Hasan. Bye.
Thank you, Councilor.
I'll also, it sounded like the first ask was, do y'all want to have candidates come to the next meeting so that you can ask them questions? And then the second question was, if yes, what questions are they?
Yeah.
I want to emphasize that we're inviting all of the candidates.
All the
because we're not
candidates.
How
endorsing
many are there?
any particular candidate, but we are posing questions to the candidates to as a public service to see where they stand on human rights.
Exactly. It's the 7th seat, so it's the tiebreaker.
Dori has her
Potentially.
hand up.
Dori.
In the feeling of full disclosure, Cameron, who is on this council, is a candidate for the seat. Am I correct?
Yes, he
He
is.
hasn't
Well, he has said he hasn't filed yet.
Okay.
So sorry,
all
go ahead.
aware.
Is there more you wanted to ask, Dori?
Go ahead, Pal.
Oh yeah, I as soon as I saw that email, I asked right away and about all of this, and Yes, totally. It's totally good and in the clear if you want to have candidates here. It's just we have to ask all candidates. So if yes, you want to have candidates at your next meeting right after March 18th, I'm going to email all of them and invite them to the HRAC space. And I'll probably also just provide the questions if you want to do, if you want to go this route.
I still have a question though.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
Mercy.
Are they going to, who's going to use the result of this conversation with them to decide who's winning, and who get a seat? Is that the point? That
Yes, the point is to ask them questions specifically about human rights and how that relates to them in the city of Beaverton, and anyone who is in the meeting or who watches the replay of the meeting can know how they stand on human rights.
Oh, okay. Because the reason I'm asking this question, I just don't want us to do something just for doing its sake. I want us to do that. Okay, we're doing this so that the hiring manager can make the decision based on their answers. So if the hiring manager is going to see this and other people who are going to make the decision to hire, if it's going to help them, then we can do it. But we need to find out, is that going to be helpful to them in the first place? Or when if they come down to maybe 2-3 people that is left to be going forward, we can do that. But with the entire panel, I mean, with the entire group, I don't know.
So this is an elected position. So they are,
okay.
Whoever registers with the city running for this office will be on a ballot, and then the community members would vote. Just like we voted for president or mayor.
Yeah.
We would vote for this. This is a special election for the open city council seat.
Okay.
And so it would be a way for people to learn how they stand on human rights. Mm-hmm. And Dori?
Or
Dori?
Then Kathy,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe Dori again?
Was Dori, Britt, Kathy?
Right.
Not Dori, Britt.
Yeah, we're gonna go with Britt.
Okay, Britt.
I'm curious if there is another forum that the individuals that are running for this position will be at, because I think sort of like Lisa was talking about, I wonder if our time would be better used for things that we can actually implement and move forward with. I love the idea of giving them questions and seeing what answers they give back to us as individuals, but I'm wondering what other forums there will be for them to answer questions like that outside of this commission.
There is a voters forum where all candidates for all positions do address the community. Last year before COVID, it was at the library and it was televised, but it didn't get into human rights at all. So it's just a thought. And we don't have to give them the whole meeting. We can decide, here are 3 questions. You've got 2 minutes, go. We get to decide that. It's our meeting. All right. Did that answer your question? All right, Sabdy.
Can we give them the 3 questions at the forum? So, because I want to know more about them than human rights.
Yeah.
Of course. And they talk about other things, like why they got in. Yes, but there wasn't time for that when I was there.
So can Paolo, do they get the questions ahead of time? Can we make sure there's some are important human rights questions?
I actually don't know for this one if they're going to get questions ahead of time. I'm going to guess they do based on how I've seen other voters forums work, but I don't actually know the answer to that, but I could find out and see if that's an option and HRAC could send questions. Because you could send questions as an individual, but are you saying like, can HRAC send questions? I'll find out. And
Sabdy.
Yep.
Who's Sabdy?
So I agree, Heather. I agree with Britt that we just have so much to do, and our meetings are already only once a month, and it's only for 2 hours. And so I would be concerned that we would end up giving too much of the meeting away to discuss these questions, because I can't see our group limiting ourselves to just 1 or 2 questions. I'm sure there end up being follow-up, and so kind of there goes the meeting. being honest. So whether it's, giving them the question, at the virtual forum on behalf of HRAC so that it's recorded, or giving them the question so they can provide us with a statement that becomes part of like our notes for next meeting, I'm fine with that. But I'm just really concerned with having them come in and have them virtually. But I do agree, Joy, honestly, that if there's never been an HRAC or human rights related question before, it should absolutely be on there, and it should definitely come from us.
All right, so just as a straw poll, who would like for us to invite candidates to either limited or greater speak at the next meeting? Raise your hand.
Sabdy, I'm going to put your hand question down unless you want to. So now you can put it up again if you, yes.
Who wants to have them? Who does not want to have them? Okay.
We want a question sent to them.
So we want to send them questions for the voters forum?
Yeah.
Who wants to put together next month questions to be submitted to the voters forum?
I think I can go with that. I can go with that.
Okay.
I could also help.
Okay.
So could one?
It's an agenda item.
Could one idea be that we think about the questions and just bring them
Put them together. Mm-hmm.
Yep. You can send them to me and I can send a doc to everybody on what those questions are. So I saw Dori and maybe Britt or Lisa. I'm sorry. The screen's missing. You're switching. So Britt,
the screen's moved.
Yes.
Yeah, the screen's moving.
Yes.
So I saw Dori and Britt.
Wait, it was over here.
And Sabdy.
My one question, Paolo, is always my question. For expediency of work, is it okay to work on a shared Google Doc? Because that'll make sure that the question, I'm pulling the thing about technology again, because that'll make sure we're not going to be in quorum. If we only have 3 people working on it, can we do it that way? Because then our questions will make sense and we'll be working together.
So you address the technical piece of not being in quorum. So there's that. And then what I'm supposed to tell you, what I've been asked to tell you, because I have asked about Google Docs before and I see why they're convenient, is to avoid it at all costs.
To avoid what?
To avoid
Not
it.
to do it. They're not secure. There's security issues. Can we email Paolo? Can we just make you our point of contact?
And then you'll decide if the questions are all, if we all email you the same 3 questions that are all identical. You see what I'm saying?
Close. Yeah, then we compile them.
There's going to have to be a conversation about the 3 questions.
And I'm sorry that that has to be like that, but yeah, let's go that route.
Okay.
And the other thing I'm going to say too is because I'm pretty sure the way our forums typically work, and if some of you, Joy, if you were there, let me know. But I'm pretty sure like there's a standard set of like city questions that are just going to be there that everybody has to answer, and then there's the free for all Q&A. And so I know the group of folks that do that, and what I plan to do tomorrow is to call Annie and say, hey, HRAC recognized that there weren't any human rights, directly human rights related questions in the last forum. And is it possible that they could submit 3?
That would be great. And be part of the city questions everyone has to answer.
Yeah.
That's what I plan to do. But I didn't want to be like, oh, this is going to happen.
Like everyone has to answer this. I love that.
Sabdy, is your hand up?
This is just it is. This is just a technical question, but from a working on a document perspective, what is the difference when we do things on Padlet versus doing things on Google?
Oh my God, you just had to.
You're breaking up. I can't understand.
What's
the question?
Is this recording? Is it still recording? It is. Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss.
Have you ever heard of that saying? It's better to ask for, was it
forgiveness instead of permission?
Yes.
I was asking for forgiveness last week.
Got it.
We didn't know.
And I've been asked to tread lightly on Padlet. I like y'all, you know, I want to do what y'all want to do. And so maybe I'm a great community member, not as great of a liaison, but.
All right. Well, I think we've solved that and early. So are there, Stephanie, anything in wrapping up?
I'm loving this. I feel like we have done a lot of work and we've created a lot of clarity and distilled our objectives and that we've targeted ourselves so that we really can get a lot done. I so appreciate this group being willing to focus, because that's kind of an area that it's always been a priority for me, is like, yeah, but what are we getting done? And so results at the end of the day are really where my emphasis wants to be. And so I'm really grateful to all of you for the work that you've done today in getting us that sense of clarity and distilling our work down to something that we can truly impact the community. And we're a laser focus as opposed to being a spray of energy. And I think it would be fantastic if we all got out a little early, because every single meeting I think I've ever been in has gone on close to 9 o'clock. And
That's
I think
right.
it would be lovely for the rest of us to have like a day when we can.
I think that Paolo had something.
Yeah, Paolo.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not crying. I feel great. I just want to say I came into this meeting tired, and then I got so much adrenaline off of everything you're saying. And like, I'm tired now, but I'm adrenaline from the excitement because of what you're all showing. Y'all energize me. Keep doing what you're doing. A few things I wanted to mention. I just wanted to make sure that I grab these next steps because there's a lot going on. There's so many great ideas being pushed. So I am going to invite Patricia to one of the future meetings, specifically around hiring and retention. Thank you, Mercy, for bringing that up. Also, I am going to ask, not can HRAC, how can HRAC get on every agenda? And I want to follow up a little bit more on how I could be supportive in this ongoing research that sounds like will be happening. I do also think that chairs, we need to get our heads together on what it means for the implementation. I think we're starting to get there.
Yeah, I have lots of notes on that though. I just want us to make sure our next meeting is really targeted so that people have specific to-dos.
Right. And then I'm going to see how many questions HRAC could get in to the the standard city questions. And then the other thing I wanted to say, and this is really bittersweet for me, but we have, I didn't even ask if this was okay, and I'm going to put attention on this person. Hope that's okay. I'm going to go for it. There's someone who's actually going to be leaving us because they are moving out of town, and so this is their last meeting. And I just wanted to say, I've loved having you part of HRAC. Can I say your name? Can you nod? Yes. Anjabine. There's much more eloquent. But Anjabine has moved out of Beaverton and will be leaving. And so, Anjabine, I just want to say it's been so awesome having you around. And I'm going to open it up for other folks if they want to share things too. And I just want to say that once upon a time, Anjabine led a mental health workshop it was really, I think, for the municipal judges and other judges in the area, but a whole bunch of city staff decided to jump in on it too. And I just want to say, stay close, because not that there's anything concrete to actually present, but I know my team, we have been talking about what can we do to support mental health, because you are all, the community, you're all speaking to us and saying mental health support. And I'm personally tired of saying, I don't know what we're doing right now. And I would like to say, this is what we're doing. We and I loved that workshop, and your name had already come up. And so hopefully I could still knock on your door. I've loved having you around. I still remember the first meeting last year, pre-pandemic, when we were in the community center and you and your partner stayed behind to help me put the food back. Because some of you know, I go big on food. And you just wanted to stay to get to know me, get to know more about the commission. And I love it. And I wish we still had you. For my own selfishness, I wish you didn't leave the city, but I'm so stoked for you and whatever's next. Thank you for everything that you brought to this space. Oh yeah.
Thanks, Paolo. I won't be far. I'll be nearby, but not in Beaverton. So please, everyone, stay in touch. It was an honor getting to know many of you, or all of you actually. And yeah, Paolo, my door is always open. I do a lot of that work. So thank you.
And Shubin, I also want to just say how grateful I have been for your voice on this commission. I feel like I've learned a lot from you personally, as well as, you know, you've been our go-to professional. I mean, you're the real deal. So it isn't, we know we're getting a professional opinion about mental health when you speak. And I just want to thank you again for your voice on this commission.
And Shabine, in addition to your amazingness as you yourself, I wanted to make sure we take a moment to thank you again for connecting us with Michael German. Really, really deepened our work last year. And I feel like I can't possibly do justice to just how cool it was that you were like, oh yeah, I just like know a guy who's like an expert at this and I can ask him to come to our meetings. Like, how lucky are we? Right. That's so cool. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome. And I'm just going to give you a final plug. I know someone who could help you with the budget. I'm just saying, if you need to email me.
Yes.
We'll take it.
Yes, please.
Spencer.
Okay. I feel like Lisa had her hand raised just a moment ago, and I missed your comment.
So Dori and I in the chat, well, Dori mostly was talking about there are some things that are happening in probably our community and everywhere regarding xenophobia towards Asian Americans in particular, regarding coronavirus and other issues that come up, you know, subsequently. So Dori, you know, generously offered to write a draft and send it to Paolo, and I'm happy to connect with you, Dori, if you want help or ideas. I can put my email in the chat. And I think that would be important to send to, or at least talk about next meeting potentially, and send to the city councils like a quick fix or quick idea, not a fix.
I love the proclamation idea.
As a resource for y'all, I'll just put a shout out to APANO, or the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon. That was my job before the city, but also I know that they are working on quite a few things around, the anti-Asian hate that's been surfacing lately. So you can let me know if you want to contact them.
Excellent. So I believe that we are prepared to adjourn the meeting. I think I need, what do I call it, Joy? Come on, educate me.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second to that.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
They try.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Oh, I stopped recording. There it is.
Good meeting.